This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Petivity knows every pet has a story.
Why is my dog's digestion off?
Could I have known sooner that my cat was sick?
Petivity is reimagining pet care to care more proactively for the pets you love. Petivity's smart products and health kits give you data your pet can't share, so you can provide the best care possible. Give your pet the story they deserve with Petivity. Visit PETIVITY.com to learn more. Petivity, powered by Purina.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet, so switch to Verizon Business. And you can get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra, the official beer partner of the NBA, is bringing NBA fans closer than ever this season with chances to win great prizes, including courtside tickets. Enter now at michelobultra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Courtside 25 to 26. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 plus. Begins on October 1st, 2025 and ends on June 30th, 2026. Multiple entry periods. See official rules at michelobultra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
Hey everybody, it's Weird Islanders, the podcast, back once again for season 5. My name is Dan. That is Mike. How are you this evening, Mike?
I'm doing great. Yeah, season 5 of Weird Islanders, a spin-off show that didn't seem like it was gonna last more than the Brian Ralston episode, but here we are in season 5. So yeah, I'm really excited to get it going, and hopefully this will be our weirdest season yet.
We'll see. And that can mean many, many things. But we are starting it off with a huge guest. We can't believe we finally got him. We were talking about getting him for years, and it finally has happened. You know him from his 13 years in the NHL with Vancouver, with the Devils, with the Islanders. You know him from BC. You know him from MSG Networks. You know him from his own podcast, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. He is the one and only Cory Schneider. Cory, how are you this evening?
Pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me. An opener is always a good time, so I don't care if it's on a podcast or on the ice. It's always good to start off a season. It means new beginnings, right?
Always. Right off the bat, like, how was your off season? Did you get into anything cool?
Yes. We were oddly busy. I'm with the NHL Network as well, so I got a little more responsibility with that, doing the Cup Finals for them. So I was in Florida and Edmonton covering some of those games, which is great. It was fun to be back in that environment, that atmosphere, the Stanley Cup Finals. I'd only been there once in my career, so it kind of gets the juices flowing again. So I went right from that into the end of school, and then we did a trip to Europe. So we were in France for 8 or 9 days, and then
very nice.
We're selling our house, so we had to get that cleaned out. Have you guys ever had to declutter your home? It's the most cathartic, stressful thing in the world. So once we did that, we were able to disappear to our lake house in New Hampshire for a good 6 weeks and just kind of decompress. So now we're back in the grind, and school started, the season starting, so everything is right with the world.
That's the highs and lows. You had a beautiful vacation, some time at the cabin, and also moving, which is the worst thing that anybody ever has to do. But no, that's awesome.
Exactly.
Did you have a chance to kind of check in with the Islanders this offseason? And if so, what'd you think of their offseason? I mean, a lot of movement, new GM, first overall pick, all kinds of new guys in. What do you think of them coming into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people inside and outside of the fandom of the Islanders sort of complain that they're not entertaining or boring, and I think this offseason was anything but. So that's fun for the fans. I have all the respect and love in the world for Lou Lamoriello, who's done wonders for me in my career and myself personally. But I think it was just sometimes it's just time for a change, for a new voice, for maybe a new direction. He did everything he could to win, and that's what's great about him is he never waves the white flag, or he doesn't give up, which I think as a player you always want. But I think people started to realize that maybe it was time for a bit of a reset here with the team. Not a rebuild, but I think bringing in Matthew Darsh, who I worked with the PA a while ago at the beginning of my career. He was heavily involved with the Players Association. So I got to meet him there, played against him briefly. Clearly a sharp guy, a smart guy, learned from one of the best in Brisebois and Tampa. So I think he was a good choice, maybe, a little outside the box or unknown, but sometimes you'd rather have some new ideas instead of a guy who's been around the league a bit. So between that and the first pick and trading Noah Dobson, I was definitely plugged in. I still know most of the guys in that team. So, I know it's weird for them because they've all been together so long that, they're like family, that locker room. So to lose Brock, at the deadline, and now Noah in the offseason, you're just starting to pull some of the strings apart of that core fabric of that team. But again, it's when you haven't had a lot of success, especially in the postseason, that those things tend to happen. So I know they understand that, but it's kind of like I said, new beginnings. It's a bit of a new era in Islanders hockey while still having some connections to the past, decade or so. So I think it's going to be an exciting season. I can't really wait to see what unfolds and how they play and what they look like.
Yeah, you be hard pressed to find two guys who enjoyed the Lou Lamoriello experience from the fan side of the window more than Dan and I. I found him to be incredibly entertaining in his own way, and just an absolute character in a sports world that is yearning for more people like him who just kind of go to the beat of their own drummer. And it became kind of hip and tongue in cheek and annoying to hear people rag on the Lou rules, but inside, you as someone who was with him with the Devils and then here on the island, do you guys even talk about that stuff at all? Or is it just people on the outside kind of projecting onto you guys about Lou's kind of his set of rules and from the no beards, the numbers, and all that kind of stuff? Because it's always people from the outside who are complaining about it. It never seems to be the players who actually do it.
Yeah, I think it's just an adjustment period, like anything. I think for guys who come into the organization who weren't a part of it before, haven't worked for him before, it's a bit of a shock. You're just not used to it, and you have to remind yourself to shave often and keep your hair short, and But at the end of the day, I think you just get used to it. You just adjust, just like anything else, and it becomes second nature. I think a lot of the guys actually really like it. They love the discipline, the routine, not having to think about things too much. What do I have to wear? When do I need to? It's no. This is exactly how you need to be. And I think for some guys, it makes their life easier. And he really de-emphasizes some of the extracurricular stuff that it's very important. Some of the fan stuff or the media stuff, and he just takes it off your plate because all he wants you to do is focus on hockey. And it's a little old school in this day and age with the social media and the putting yourselves out there. But again, I think once you get used to it, I think some guys really appreciate it. Some guys can't stand it. Some guys want to be themselves and grow their hair out, and they say, we're not long for this. But I also think part of it is his way of finding out who's going to buy in. Like, let's see who pushes back. Let's see who doesn't want to follow the rules, because in his mind, maybe they're not meant to be in this culture and in this room. So I think it's also a way for him to sort of tell who the dissenters might be or who the troublemakers might be, who's not going to toe the company line, because he wants a team, he wants a unit, he doesn't want individuals. And I think there's something admirable about that, and maybe a lost art, but again, in today's day and age, you have to adapt a bit. And I think he did that for the most part, but he was still Lou at his core. So again, I think most guys, once you get used to it and you fall in line, you really don't have an issue with it, but it does get made a big deal on the outside for sure.
Yeah.
Were you surprised when he took the Islanders job? Obviously that the team that year just they were staring down the John Tavares situation. They didn't have a coach. They didn't have a GM, and here comes Lou and Barry. Was that something that you took note of from the outside and were like, wow, that's an interesting fit, or did it make sense to you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, just having been in Jersey with him, and then he went to Toronto, which I think surprised me a little bit more. But I think he may not have been long for that place because I think in Toronto you can only hold the line on the media stuff and
Yep.
the representation in self, expression stuff for so long. 'Cause it's such a hot market and people want to know everything all the time. So I think people get fed up or frustrated with that eventually. So I think he did a great job though, reestablishing the culture and those young guys like Marner and Matthews. He was there for that. So I think that helped set the tone for those guys. So I think, it was maybe a quick fix there, but I was a little surprised because not that the Islanders were astray, but they were in Long Island, they were in Brooklyn. You're kind of trying to figure what their identity is. Like, who are these guys? They had some fun teams. They had some teams that could score. They had teams that were less, or a little more nondescript. And I think when Lou and Barry came to the island, it gave them kind of instant credibility and an identity. You kind of knew what you're going to get now. This is going to be a hard team to play against. They're going to be strong defensively. They're going to be a pain in the butt to play all the time. So I think not that they didn't have that before, but I think it was a little, they were just there, and they had some good years, had some not so good years, but now with Lou and Barry, it was kind of like, all right, we know what these guys are about, so at least we'll have an identity and something to hang our hat on. So I think that was a great move by them just to reestablish the culture and the identity of the franchise because it is such a storied, historic team, especially in this area that. It's fun when they're good. It's fun when the Rangers and the Devils and the Islanders and the Flyers, all those teams are good because they all hate each other. So I think it's good for the fans and the sport to have them be relevant and play each other all the time.
Yeah, that we talk a lot about that. Those first 3 years under Trotz and Lou being probably the best years of our life as fans. Like just that run, those two conference finals runs were really something special. One of my favorite Lou stories. And it's much better when Ken Danico tells it, but Danico tells the story about how he went to talk to Lou about, maybe requesting a trade. And Lou was like, this is like a symphony orchestra and we've got drummers, we've got, violin players. And what do you want to be? If you want to be part of the orchestra, you play here. If you wanted to be a soloist, you go someplace else, something like that. Again, it's much better when Ken Danico tells it. But do you have a story of like Lou giving you some sort of pearls of wisdom that only Lou Lamoriello could possibly have come up with that you've kind of carried with you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean, the key is you have to nail the Lou accent, which isn't easy because it's like Rhode Island.
Dan was gun shy there. Dan does a pretty good Lou, but
yeah,
he'll break. Hopefully, he'll break it out. He'll break it out.
All right, well, maybe I'll lead the way because I do like a good impression of you. But it's not quite Boston. It's not quite New York. Rhode Island has a very specific New England accent. So, I mean, Lou was always around. He was just omnipresent, in the locker room, and you never knew where he was going to pop up. But he kept his finger on the pulse. He did have he kept using the word compulsory when I first got there, and I had to look it up. I was like, what the heck does compulsory mean? Because he must have used it 13 times. It means mandatory, which is not a shock considering it's Lou. Right. But he just would come in and he was very patient and kind at times. Like especially when he took over as a coach, he was super supportive and would give you a pat and say, you're doing great. You're waiting to get chewed out. And he was very patient when he took over our bench one year. But there were times where he lost his cool for sure. He let you know what he thought and where he stood. But, I remember one time we were dealing with some injuries and he was wondering if some guys were able to play through them or not. And he kind of came in and he said, listen, there's 3 parts of the injury. If you're hurt, you play. If you're sore, you play. If you're injured, you don't play. So you got to tell me, are you hurt, are you sore, or are you injured? Because he just wanted to know. He said, hey, who's not playing through some pain? Like, let's go. If you're really hurt, then you're injured. Then let's put you out. But if you're not, I need you in the lineup. So it was just a very direct, succinct way of breaking it down for guys. And like, oh, okay. All right. I hadn't thought about it like that. So there's probably more I can't tell or can't think of at the moment. But again, he was definitely, like I said, around and shared his thoughts whenever he felt it was necessary.
I like that. Yeah, I was listening to a couple of podcasts you did before as well, and you did mention that Lou is sort of always around, and I love the idea of like Lou Lamoriello is a version of Batman. Like he just sort of is always lurking in the shadows. It's like you don't know if he's watching, but he's always watching.
Oh, he kept guys honest. He always made sure his office overlooked the practice rink, maybe with like a tinted window, and you could see his silhouette up there sometimes. Again, he left no stone unturned, so that's what I appreciate. You could never accuse him of not paying attention or not knowing what was going on because he made sure he knew everything that was going on with that team. That's how much he was invested in and how much he cared about it. So again, I've never seen anything like that. And I don't know if he will again, but he sure did it his own way. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a point that Dan and I over the years have been trying to drive home is like the Islanders were painted as the the most mundane, boring, ubiquitous sports team, but they were really the outlier. They were the only team doing things this way. It was because of Lou, who was 82 years old running a professional sports team when that's gonna people look back on that in 20 and 30 years and think of it as, when there were player coaches and stuff, it'll just be a foreign concept. But so we were really proud and happy to have him here. And what was the conversation like when he was when they reached out, or he reached out to you to kind of bring you over to the island, and what were your thoughts initially about what you knew about the team and the guys, and kind of what drew you to taking up the gig?
Yeah, it was an interesting time. It was kind of right in the teeth or the end of COVID when they started back up, and the bubble had happened, and they went on that run. So it was kind of fun to watch. They came out of nowhere that year, the Islanders in the bubble. So it was kind of like, wow, that was impressive. I didn't know they were that good. It was one of those things where I didn't realize they had this in them. Um, so and it was fun too because a couple of my friends from the Devils were there. Andy got traded there at the deadline, so we got to watch him a bit. But yeah, when I got bought out by the Devils, it wasn't unforeseen, but it's always a shock. You're just sad and disappointed that it didn't a place I had been invested in. And not too long after, it was a weird time because teams were tightening the belts financially. No one knew what was going on with the practice squad in the American League, that whole thing. So it was a bit of a unknown, obviously, point of time. But Lou reached out right away, and when you hear a familiar voice or someone who believes in you, it makes a difference. It's better, from some other teams that kind of said, well, maybe it'll be a 2, maybe it'll be a 3. We're not really sure. Here's what we can give you, and it's just sort of wishy-washy. And Lou, I think, was right on and said, hey, I know what you're about. I know you fit right in with this room. I don't know what's going to happen this year in terms of the rules and how it's going to work, but if we could have you as our third guy, but with Ilya and Varley there in case something happens, he's like, I think that would be, is how he put it to me. So it was a bit of an unknown there. I didn't know quite what that meant, if I was going to be in the American League, if they're going to have an American League. But again, I think just watching those guys go on a deep run the year before, being close to New Jersey where we were staying with our family just during that time, it made all the sense in the world. So just having him believe in me and just sort of say, hey, we want you a part of this. We know you're a good fit and you'll be a good player and a good soldier, because we didn't know what was going to happen again, just in terms of playing time. And I was, happy to do that. I said, yeah, you know what, Lou, I know what you're about. I trust you. And I appreciate you kind of not taking a chance, but just believing in me. So I think it was a great fit for me at the time.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it was. You came in. We kind of had a feeling that you would be signed. I remember at the time it was like immediate. I was really quickly, right after the Devils bought you out. But you end up going to Bridgeport. 65 games there, 33 wins, 23 losses over I think three seasons, right? 6 playoff games as well in there. And I think, did you take on mostly like a sort of a mentorship role in Bridgeport? What was the sort of dynamic there? I mean, you're coming from running, basically being the starter for an NHL team, and now you're in the AHL. Was that an adjustment period, or were you just kind of happy to get in there and really get back to health too, because you had a lot of injury problems at that point, right?
Yeah, it was a weird time in my career, obviously. My last game I played, I think, was March of 2020 before everything shut down. And then, somehow in a good way that Varley and Soroki never got hurt or sick. I think they were the only team in the league to not start a third goalie the entire season. So, it was great because they're 2 awesome goalies and they won a lot of games for us. But for me, I basically went a whole new season without playing a game in the NHL. So, here we are. It's been 18 months since I played a real game at the pro level the next fall. And I just wanted to, like at that point in my career, did I need to do it? Like, no, not necessarily, but I think I felt better and better as the year went on in practice. And I said, hey, I can still play at this level, or I think I can. I'd like to find out. I didn't want to, hang it up or walk away without knowing. So when they came back and offered me a 2-way and, Bridgeport with the Island, I kind of said, yeah, you know what, I want to see if I can still do this. So even going to Bridgeport, I have a lot of respect for the American League. I spent a lot of time there to start my career, and I think it taught me a lot. And I think in this day and age, guys and kids are in such a hurry to get to the National League, which I get. I mean, that's where you want to end up. But I think a lot of them skip some crucial development time and learning how to make mistakes and learning how to, get yourself out of a rut and when you're not playing well, and just do those things. So, I was found as a very, important part of my career. So when I went there, I was there to play. I wanted to prove to myself and to other people that, hey, maybe it's not the NHL, but it's still a good league. And it's a young group of guys, and guys know I played in the league to try to take care of them. You always did that with New Jersey, people feel included, having people over, saying, "Hey guys, we're a team here." Like, it's a fun experience.
Your run in Bridgeport was great, and I mean, again, the Islanders have two guys who basically, like you said, started every game, gave you a chance to get back into the groove, get healthy again. But in 2022, you get the chance to finally get called up. I guess it was Sorokin was hurt. I forgot. I'm pretty sure Sorokin was hurt for a while. You backed him up for a few games, and finally, you get into a final game excuse me. So you finally get into a game April 22nd, April of 2022 against, of course, the New Jersey Devils at Prudential Center. Initially going into this, does this feel weird or does this feel about right that your first game in 2 years is against the New Jersey Devils?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty, poetic or ironic. I don't know what you want to call it. Yeah, it was such a weird phenomenon just because I'd been called up a couple times and didn't get to play, just backed up. And I don't know if it probably got to the point where I don't know if they trusted me or they weren't sure what they were going to get from me just because I literally hadn't played an NHL game in 2 years. So I think they, rode Varley or Soroki pretty hard whenever the other one was hurt just because they were in a dogfight and they wanted to get in. So I think at that point in the year, I think they were either out of the running or weren't going to make it. And we had a back-to-back, a 3 and 4, and Varley played the night before. And so I was hoping I'd get one of those games. And, of course, it was the one in Jersey, so I had circled. So it was oddly familiar, but oddly stressful. It was like my first game all over again. And it was, again, very comfortable being in there, but just different being in the visitors room. And I was pretty nervous, to be honest. I said, I don't know why, but it felt like it was my first game again. I had to almost relearn everything over the last 2 years and go through my routine and remember what it meant to start an NHL hockey game. So, but I was really thankful. I had some family come in for it. You never know if it's going to be your last game. I hoped it wouldn't be, but I knew it could be. You just didn't know what the future held at that point. It was April, so the season was ending. Was I going to play again? But to get that chance, I knew the guys. I'd spent parts of 2 years at that point, between the COVID year and then that year getting called up in training camps, and the guys, my teammates, the coaching staff, they were all, I think, pulling pretty hard for me and played really hard for me, which is always nice. So I think they wanted to make it a good one for me. And, they gave it everything they had and they played really well. So it made my life easier. But yeah, there was a little bit of nerves there at the end. We were 3-2 and I think, we 4-2, maybe they had a chance to make it 4-3. So it was, it got a little spicy, but it was nice to get one more win and kind of do that in front of my friends and family. So, it meant a lot that they gave me that opportunity. And again, I didn't know at the time it was going to be the last one, but I'm glad it went out that way, especially against the Devils.
Devils got on the board after going down 3-0. Less than a minute later, made it 3-1. That's where the period starts as Cory Schneider keeps it that way with a couple of tough stops in the opening second. It's Hischier. Dawes making his way to the benches. Hamilton for Hischier. Oh, off the toe of Cory Schneider. Islanders get it cleared out.
Been a long time coming for Cory, and here's that last play. Goes off his left toe. Now it comes back. This was the awkward position I was talking about. As you can see, his left toe extends. Now he's got to get back, and he's in a good position originally, but because he gets slowed down, he's got to readjust right there.
Hamilton gained the line, lost it. Here's Parisi towards an empty net. It goes wide, but time runs out on New Jersey. The Islanders win their 4th in a row. Cory Schneider, his first win in his first appearance in more than 2 calendar years.
That was a crazy game. I think that was a Peugeot hat trick, and Alec Pellick had 3 points. And wasn't the Subban Wallstrom?
Somebody hit Jack. I remember somebody knocked Jack out of the game.
Yeah, that
might have been Wally. Yeah, and Subban PK came up and grabbed him. So yeah, I think that ended Jack's season. Unfortunately, who is one of my good friends, or a kid I knew pretty well from living with us. So I was like, oh boy.
But my favorite stat from that game is I will ask you both a little trivia here. Do you know who led? The Islanders had 29 shots on goal in that game. One player led the team that night with 6 shots on goal. Can you guess who it is? I'll give you each one guess, and I feel pretty confident that I'm gonna have to give you guys the answer after you guys.
I'll guess Kyle Palmieri.
I will say Anders Lee.
It was offensive dynamo Grant Hutton with 6 shots on goal that game. So
Jesus.
Yeah, in 13:30 of ice time. So a really impressive volume from So really, really good stuff from Hutton. Yeah, and that game, you're playing. I know you and Precy didn't really cross paths with the Devils, but you've got Palmieri in the lineup, Andy Green in the lineup. At one point, Travis Zajac comes in there. The Islanders under Lou had taken on plenty of former Devils. Was that like a I don't know, an inside joke amongst the group at all that Lou was just kind of hoarding 2010s New Jersey Devils and just bringing them over to the island?
Yeah, we were like the island of misfit island or Devils over there. Yeah, we know it was funny. It helped too, though, just having Palms and Andy there and Trav for a time. Again, I knew Zach from some Team USA stuff, and I just missed him in Jersey, but I knew him well enough that it was funny. We'd tell stories about the Devils or that time under Lou and all that. So it was kind of like we were reliving the 2010s all over again. So yeah, I know a lot of people outside the team probably made light of it or had some fun with it, but it was great having those guys because they made me feel a lot more comfortable and just helped me along too as well when I wasn't feeling great or not playing or anything like that. So again, Lou loves his old players because he trusts them. He knows who he's going to get. So I think that's why he's got an affinity for ex players of his.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed that way for a while, but all you guys just fit. We remember very well when the Islanders acquired Andy Green. It was like, oh man, this is going to be great. This is perfect. He's the perfect guy for this. And then it was Palmieri, and then it was Zajac. I was like, oh wow, these guys are all perfect for this.
Andy's I think he's my longest tenured teammate of my career. So he and we're really close. Our families, our friends, and he was one of my favorite players of all time. Just criminally underrated and just always knew where to be. He was never in a bad spot. You could set your watch to him and know he was going to make the right play 99 times out of 100. So I was glad when he came over because again, I thought he deserved to have another chance and play on a winning team. We had some lean years there in Jersey towards the end with him and me. So it was fun to see him sort of get another run at it and extend his career a bit.
Yeah, that famous game against the Lightning, Game 6 in 2021. The Islanders were down 2-0, and their first goal of that game was a Jordan Eberle backhand, and it was an unbelievable shot, and the play by Barzal to drive the middle and kind of open up some space was getting a lot of attention. But that whole play starts with the perfect 3-foot pass from Andy Green to Noah Dobson. And I was like, if you could just take that clip and show it to the hockey world, be like, this is what makes this guy such a joy to watch. Because like you said, as a fan, it's really nice to know that when you would see for us, number 4 going back there to retrieve a puck, or he's got the puck on a stick, be like, I can go get something to eat right now. And I know that this puck isn't going to end up in the back of my net on a turnover or anything, because he's just going to take care of it. We're going to move up the ice and I can come back and join the play and take a deep breath for like 20 seconds here. Because it took us like 3 shifts to trust Andy Green with our lives. I was like, this guy, you can watch my kids. I don't care what he was just what a joy to have on the aisles.
You can have a long career, make a lot of money by making a 10-foot pass. And I think Andy understood that better than anybody.
Incredible.
The goal he scored against the Flyers in the bubble is one of my favorite Islanders playoff goals ever. Because you did not expect that. And you're just like, holy crap, it's Andy Green. I can't believe this.
Those are the best playoff moments for the guys who you never thought would happen. So, exactly. Right. He's that kind of guy.
And like another Andy Green, as this turns into Weird Islanders, Andy Green, is a great story that we picked up on. And it was such a good Lou move. Was the Islanders had, after that win, they go down to Tampa for Game 7, and you got to do the media availability, and you'd expect that the pregame talk, it would be Barzal or Lee or someone, and who does Lou send up to do before Game 7 to talk to the media? But longtime Islanders, Andy Green and Travis Zajac. It's so good. We were cracking up like this. Yeah, they're not going to say anything to get anybody riled up in the other room. I can tell you that much.
They'll have a lot of words that don't say anything.
Yeah.
Who knows what he's doing?
And now a word from our sponsors. VintageIceHockey.com. Over 100 classic hockey logos on t-shirts, jerseys, hats, mugs, and more. Long Island Ducks, Albany Riverettes, Danbury Trashers, Kentucky Thoroughblades, and so many more. Plus a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch with our portion of the sales going directly to the Center for Dementia Research. These incredible items cannot be found in stores, so shop VintageIceHockey.com today. Relax, sit back, and enjoy wine from The Pinot Project. Rosé, Pinot Grigio, or a Pinot Noir that was named a Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. These wines are delicious, affordable, and available at area wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. And please, drink responsibly. You're like second or third on essentially every Devils goaltending list. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I knew you were lights out with the Devils for 7 straight years. I did not realize to the degree at which you were that high on that team's record book, which is crazy because I mean, I feel like I watched every game you played for the Devils. And obviously you're very high on a lot of the Canucks goaltending list too, and at BC too. But you only have this one game as an Islander. Do you ever like reflect upon that one game as a New York? I mean, obviously you have a ton of games in Bridgeport, but like that, would you ever like sit back and think about that one game as an Islander and like where that fits into this kind of grand scheme of your career?
Yeah, it's odd because I'm glad I got it, first of all, because then I would have spent 3 years in the organization and not played a single game, which would have been harder. So it was nice to, again, go out there and prove I could win at that level. And, I wish I'd gotten a few more opportunities, but it just wasn't in the cards. But I think in those couple of years with the Islanders and Bridgeport, I just proved to myself that I could still play, maybe not at the level I was accustomed to or used to, or that people are accustomed from me. But even the American League, it's a tough league to play. And I thought for the most part, I held my own and just, was still able to play. It got harder as you get older, obviously. And not being in the NHL can wear on you. But, we're still in Connecticut where we lived when I played there. So this has become our home. My kids got to see me play. They saw me a lot. My wife brought them to almost every game when they were little before the COVID and all that. But they were 3 and 5, so I don't remember all of it. So, they got to see me play hockey, which
that's awesome.
It's a good memory to have, and they had a lot of fun with that. So that was important to me and my family. And yeah, it's almost like a footnote of my career in a sense. I kind of stopped playing in 2020 at the NHL, and this is weird to me that I played for 3 more years and just got the one game. But I'm happy for it. Again, some people can be bitter or sour or whatever. It's for me, I'm just, you kind of make do with what you have. And I was thankful for the opportunity that I got to keep playing. And some guys, I think, quit before they wanted to or were forced to. And I didn't have to do that. I kind of got to go out on my own terms in a sense, maybe not at the NHL level, which very few guys get to do. But yeah, again, it's like I said, I feel like I have some notoriety with Islanders fans, even though I only played the one game. So maybe the playtime to ratio of people who knew me from the Islanders is not equivalent, but they've always been great. The Islanders fans have been awesome and have always treated me really well. And even when I did the Islanders broadcast for MSG and stuff, people always came and talked to me and said hi and made me feel like I was an Islander, even though at times I didn't always feel that way because I felt like I should be playing and could contribute, and I didn't get that opportunity. So it's been, like I said, a fun sort of twist at the end of my career.
Yeah, and you kind of just touched on the entire ethos and theme of the show, which we almost conclude every episode with we're talking about guys who had maybe played 4 games here, 8 games here, in your case 1 game here, maybe 29 a trade deadline acquisition or whatever, and when we had Darren Quint on, he played 4 games, and we always kind of ruminate and discuss, like, does this player realize that the impact that he had on this fan base in just that amount of time? And we hope that they do, because we're doing a podcast about it, so it's us two and a guest talking for an hour about Richard Zednik or something like that. And usually we kind of get to the point at the end of every episode, which is like, this was memorable, and your one game ends up being quite memorable, not just with the opponent, the way that it kind of pans out, and also like you kind of turn it into a second career with MSG and all that. And I'm happy that you picked up on something that we always talk about, which is that whether you're here for one shift or you're playing 900 games, like a lot of these guys are on the current team, like, once you put on the Islander jersey, as long as you want to be here and you're not acting like you were held hostage, like Kirk Muller or guys like that, we will love you and appreciate you forever. Like, once you become an Islander, like you're just an Islander. So I'm happy that you picked up on that, and Islander fans have kind of shown you that, because over our lifetime, there have been a lot of guys who refuse to come here or asked out pretty quickly, and it's it can hurt a little bit. So it's something we really appreciate here. Like, oh no, he wanted to be here and he was here. So
Yeah,
it's great.
I have two quick things for you guys. I can one up you on the Weird Islander stuff. But first, yeah, I mean, the island to me was kind of like New Jersey, where you drive into Newark and you play and you leave, and you're like, why do guys want to play here? And then you realize what Jersey's about. And then, like Long Island, you come to the Coliseum as a visitor, you stay in that Marriott, whatever was across the plaza, and they're blowing their horns like, "This, what am I doing?" You're like, this stinks. And then you come and you live there, and you're like, "Wow, this is really a cool place with a great fan base and a great place to live." So it's definitely like the perception is different than the reality. I think once guys come to play there, they realize that. But just in terms of the Weird Islander stuff, I have a story for you guys that my wife's family has gone to this tiny remote lake in New Hampshire for 40 years, and her mom had a cabin there. And when we got married about 12 years ago, we bought the house one over from her. So there's one person right in between us and her mother, and it's 100 yards. So like you can see the house, you can see whatever. And her son was a huge Islanders fan. They're from Long Island, and she just lives there now, the mother. And the son would come visit. When I was with the Devils, we'd chit chat and say hi. Like the 1 week of summer, he was a really nice guy. And then when I signed with the Islanders, man, he was so fired up. He was like, since you get older, I've been going since the 80s. Like, I'm so happy to have you here, man. Like, it's just like, oh, thanks. Shout out Terry, by the way. He's the man. So one of those games I'm backing up, I was called up, and we were at UBS, and I'm skating around in warm-ups before the game. I think Ilya was playing, so I was just doing the backup thing. And I look up at the glass, and I see on the glass a Schneider 35 Blue Islanders jersey. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's no way they're selling these in the pro shop. Like, there's no chance that they've made jerseys to sell. And I'm like, who owns this jersey? And he turns around. It's my guy, Terry, my neighbor of the mother in New Hampshire, who, is in the town of 1,000 people. His mom happens to live between us and my mother-in-law. So Terry turned around and gave me a big thumbs up and was like pointing at me. So yeah, he went out and got a custom-made Schneider Islanders jersey for me. And it's just awesome. like what a fan base. So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's, I totally believe that. Like that's the way we are, right? Like we go out and, the Islanders have done that jersey off your back promotion. And like, we have a friend of ours who's been walking around with a Mike Motto jersey for like 10 years. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. My closet is chock full of some guys who just kind of were passing by and and we're not alone. I mean, I'm sure walking around UBS, you'd be like, I don't even know who that player is, but they've got, a beautiful, beautiful orange Islander jersey. Yeah. And I actually went to college up in Bridgeport at Sacred Heart. So my roommate for 4 years was a huge, huge Devils fan. And him and I used to always talk about that, how our fan base is kind of deferred from the Rangers, who are, much more of a, Instagram fan base than a, die in the wool kind of setup like we have and the Devils do, where, it probably wasn't weird for an Islander fan and a Devils fan both to have the same, a Marek Zidlichki jersey, even though, he was only there for a little while on each side. So I do think that kind of adoration for anybody who comes in and wears the orange and blue doesn't really translate into some of the other fan bases. I don't think you're going to go walk around MSG and see anybody wearing like a Dan Blackburn jersey or anything like that. So
Dan Blackburn, great goalie back in the day.
He was, yeah. I remember he was a great Dan Blackburn story was what he wanted to play with two blockers because he had some injury and
he was glove hand or something, a nervous or something like that.
Yeah, so I do respect Dan. One of the few Rangers I respect, Dan Blackburn.
that was a new take, but hey, he tried, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I can pinpoint the moment in which Islanders fans attached themselves to you, and it was actually the moment you became a New Jersey Devil. You were traded there at the draft in 2013. I was actually in the building. This was when the draft was happening in New Jersey. I was there. I will never forget Commissioner Bettman coming up to the podium and saying, "We have a trade to announce," and then everybody booing for some reason, and him saying, "I think you're going to want to hear this." And he announced that Cory Schneider was coming to New Jersey from Vancouver for the 9th overall pick. We'll get back to that pick in a second. But one of my favorite things about this being in the building, and actually you can hear this on the YouTube clip that I have here, is that half the building is Devils fans, and they're all excited. They're like losing their minds because, holy shit, we just got Cory Schneider. And the other half of the building is fans of every other team going, "Oh, shit. Are you kidding me?" This is really, because we all hoped that, our team would be the one to kind of take advantage of the Canucks situation. And we'll get to that in a little bit too.
James Duthie back with you. We are at number 9 right now in the New Jersey Devils, but we believe we have a trade. and it's a significant one. Let's turn it over to the commissioner, Gary Bettman, to make the announcement.
We have a trade to announce. I think you're going to want to hear this. New Jersey trades the 9th selection in the 2013 NHL Draft to Vancouver in exchange for goaltender Cory Schneider. Reality is set in. Brodeur can't do it anymore. They know that. Johan Hedberg's not getting any younger. Jeff Frazee was supposed to be the goalie of the future. That's not getting done. That man just pulled a major heist. I really believe his knowledge of Hockey East. They named the championship trophy in Hockey East the Lou Lamoriello Trophy. He played at Boston College. New Jersey knows the Hockey East players better than anybody. Better than anybody. Cory Schneider's a home run. In the 2013 NHL
here's James
Draft will be made by the Vancouver
All right,
Canucks.
gentlemen, I can tell you when rumors of that deal were floating around during the commercial break, I spoke briefly to Cory Schneider. He knew nothing of it. We saw Mike Gillis on the phone right now, so maybe that was the phone call he was making. When deals happen quickly at the draft, sometimes players aren't notified. But as of 1 minute ago, Cory Schneider had no idea that he is now a New Jersey Devil.
What were your emotions like at that moment?
I found out about how you guys found out. It was like a weird year because I think it was the lockout year, so the draft was like a different time than usual, maybe a little later.
Yeah, it was all done in one day, which was very
good.
Yeah.
And we were getting married that summer. So I think my wife had just had her bachelorette party, so she was in tough shape the next morning, rightfully so. And I kind of came back after a walk and a coffee. And I turned the draft on just because it was on, and I think she's upstairs. And I get a text from, I think it was James Duthie, I think from TSN, who I got to know when I was in Canada. And he was just like, "Are you getting traded to the Devils?" I was like, "Am I?" He's like, "You know, I turned the TV on." So sure enough, as soon as I flipped it on, that's when that whole scene you just talked about unfurled. And as soon as I heard that, I got a call from Mike Gillis, the Canucks GM, telling me that he traded me. And right after that, I called from Lou as I see him on the TV walking down the tunnel on his phone, telling me how excited it was for me to become a Devil. I told my wife, I was like, "Get down here, you got to see this." So yeah, I think I was as stunned as you guys were because I was under the impression I was going to be in Vancouver for a long time. That's sort of how we ended things the season before.
Right.
So it really caught me off guard. But, the best one of all was from Roberto Luongo, who I think thought he was getting traded. We said our goodbyes at the end of the year-end thing. He's like, "Hey, buddy, like, I'm out of here. This is your team now. Like, go do your thing. Like, I'm really proud of you," all that. So he was ready to move on, I think. And the next text came from him just saying WTF with a million question marks and exclamation. So I think he was as confused as anybody. So yeah, it was definitely like a shocking trade. I know it's gone down sort of in history, recent history at least, as one of the bigger draft day trades, just like you said, because it was in Jersey and Marty was still there. And the story about me and Lou in Vancouver and all that had been going on with the media out there. So it was kind of the culmination of it. I never thought it'd be New Jersey, to be honest. He's a good job at keeping things quiet, Lou does. So nobody heard. I think he kind of swore people to secrecy too, that if anybody broke the deal, he was going to cancel it. So, but yeah, I mean, I was kind of stunned that day. We went to a block party, and I was making calls to Devils people, just getting things organized. Come down, I'll introduce you. So definitely a whirlwind. Kind of the only time I ever got traded. But yeah, I mean, it ended up working out. We're from the East Coast. We're from Boston originally, so being back in Jersey, closer to home, was great. And like I said, I'd only played there once when I was in Vancouver. So getting to know the area and just being close to New York City, it was a lot of fun. So I think, it ended up being a fun chapter in our lives. Our kids were born in New Jersey. So definitely kind of a different era. We were young and fun in Vancouver, and then just a family era in Jersey. So, it definitely worked out. And again, I wish I'd been able to do a little bit more while I was there. But at the same time, like I said, that story is a great story. And as you mentioned, things come full circle with the draft pick, as you alluded to.
Yes. So that draft pick ends up being used on Bo Horvat, who you came to know and now in your time with the Islanders. Have you guys ever sat down and talked like we were traded for one another? Do you know that?
What's actually funny is I really haven't, because he got traded at the deadline that year, my last year, and I never got called up after that. So I actually never played with him or was on the roster with him at the same time. And then I retired, and now I'm at MSG. I'm in the locker room briefly to say hi to guys, and didn't seem appropriate to chop up and break that whole scenario down when I'm in there doing pregame.
Who won the trade?
So we shook hands, we said hi, we've had small chit chat, but we both kind of know he's been asked a million times about it. So have I. So
Sure.
I think it's kind of understood, but I've never actually been able to really sit down and have a conversation. So maybe that's a good guest to have on my podcast with Brian Doyle. Do the hard hitting one-on-one interview about that whole thing. But yeah, it's odd. We've never really ever crossed paths. Like even on the island, we just missed each other in terms of being up on the team at the same time. So ships passing in the night, and maybe I don't know if that trade tree is still going or if it's still a thing or not. But I know people keep track of it, so I think it's kind of fun.
And you two don't even need to talk about just the trade, but I think when I think about Vancouver, media circuses, the situation with you and Roberto, and then with Horvat and his contract situation, maybe it was they were trumped this past year with the Pettersson and JT Miller situation, but no media contingent outside of Toronto can do a circus like they do in Vancouver. So you guys can kind of just talk about there, and then how different it is to move from that environment where it's just what they're all about over there and in Vancouver to I guess greener pastures, whether it be New Jersey or Long Island, where you're just kind of part of the community, and your job just happens to be playing for the hockey team that is in that community. And it has to be such a different a huge adjustment to go from a Vancouver media environment to whether it be Jersey or Long Island, where you're playing second, third fiddle to the Rangers plus the 30 other professional teams we have here.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. I think I'm glad I got to play in Canada and Vancouver to start my career. I was in Winnipeg before that for the American League team, and even that was, there was attention and scrutiny. And we played in the building the Jets are in now, so we had a great setup. We were treated like an NHL team, so I think it's good as a young player just to learn how to play with that pressure and deal with that kind of media and attention. It's not for everybody. Some guys thrive off of it. Other guys want to be left alone. So I think, again, at that point in my career, it was more fun. We had a really good team. I was still kind of the backup, which nobody ever blames, obviously. And then, was kind of emerging as a starter, and then I got traded. So, a market like that, sometimes I think there are very few guys who maintain their hero status. Maybe the Sedin twins are about the only one. And eventually you become the villain at some point, no matter what. So I feel like I was there long enough to kind of get that, likability, but then got traded early enough that nobody really hated me out there. So kind of the best of both worlds. But yeah, it's an adjustment. Again, it can be a lot, just going out to eat, being in the public eye, being asked. They love drama out there, no matter what, whether they're good or bad. There's always something going on. So you can't say it's not entertaining, but they do work hard to kind of conjure up, any story they can or pull any string they can. And again, I think it's good trial by fire just to learn how to play in that environment. And but again, that's another reason we did enjoy coming to the East Coast and Jersey, because like you said, the fans are passionate. The Devils fans, the Islanders fans, they're hardcore fans. I always say that there aren't a ton of them, but the ones you meet are all diehard fans. There's no like, oh, I kind of like the Devils, or oh, I kind of no. It's like I'm a diehard Islanders fan, or I'm a diehard Devils fan. So you do get that love and attention and appreciation from the fan base. But like you said, you can kind of go about your day and not worry about people asking for pictures and autographs all the time, which is fine. Again, it's part of the job, and it's part of being an entertainer, and people pay to come see you do your job, which is an incredible thing when you think about it. But there are times where you just want to live your life or get away, and it's a little bit harder to do that in a Canadian market. So I think I said the timing was great. We had kids and kind of into a different phase of our life where you're a little more private. So I think it worked out pretty well. But yeah, again, a bit of an adjustment, because there were nights in Jersey where it's a Tuesday night against Phoenix and there's 12,000 people in the building. Whereas in Vancouver, it's hockey night in Canada against the Leafs, and the city's buzzing. And it's just like, sometimes it took a minute to get, all right, we got to manufacture sometimes your own energy if you're not playing well or the crowd's not quite into it yet. So, there were pros and cons about both, but at the end of the day, like I said, I think it was a good move for us.
I mean, in terms of drama, your Canucks tenure had a lot of it, obviously. You guys went to the Stanley Cup final in 2011. You won a Jennings Trophy with Roberto Luongo, another Weird Islander who we have done an episode about as well.
The William M. Jennings Trophy. In 60 starts, Roberto Luongo posted a 2.11 goals against average.
Shot by Hamilton, glove save Luongo.
Rookie teammate Cory Schneider also shone with a 2.23 goals against average.
Oh, Schneider, post to post.
as the duo became the first Canucks to win the Jennings Trophy.
I want to start off by thanking my partner, Cory. Unbelievable season. I couldn't have won this award without you, obviously, and you're going to be a great superstar in this league one day. All my teammates, obviously, this is a team award. You know, these guys play hard every night, not only thinking about scoring goals, but defending our net, and, you know, with our coaching staff, great system. So thank you, all my teammates as well. And obviously my beautiful wife and lovely children. I love you guys, and I'll let my partner take it away.
Just want to say thanks to the Aquilinis and Mike Gillis and the coaching staff for all their help. Thank you to my teammates and the big cat next to me for doing a majority of the work here. And again, just want to thank my beautiful girlfriend, Jill, my friends and family, and everyone who supported me along the way. Thank you.
You alluded to it before. There was this idea that he was the one who was going to get traded, but his contract was very massive. He gave a legendary press conference that I personally will never forget, where he said, "My contract sucks," and it was a whole thing. But you guys were supportive of each other. Like, how much does that sort of off-ice stuff kind of get in the way? Is it ever really discussed, or is it just like you're there to support each other, you're there to pick each other up, and you know your teammates, no matter what, regardless of whose contract says what and whose agent is working on this, that, or the other thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really enjoy Roberto. I have a lot of respect for him, a lot of time for him as a player and as a person. I think he really evolved in Vancouver and kind of came to grips with the media attention. I think he accepted that. And I think that's when you saw the whole personality come out, the Strombone, the Twitter feed. I think at first he was a little combative with the media and sort of a little had his back up, just not being used to it. But then he accepted it and had a ton of fun with it. And I think that was admirable of him. I think it was an interesting dynamic. I was just getting to the league. I was trying to prove that I belonged. My first few call-ups, my first couple of years pro before I became the backup, I could feel from some of the older guys, like when I played, I struggled because I was a young kid and I was nervous, and I could almost feel them being like, "Well, you're not Roberto. Like, we're going to lose, or we're not going to play well because you're not him," because he was a Vezina caliber goalie. So it's some big shoes to fill when he wasn't playing. So I think that's why, again, I said the American League was huge for me. I spent better parts of 3 years there. So by the time I got to Vancouver as a 24-year-old, I was ready. And I think for him too, he'd played a ton of games. He was like Marty, he played 65, 70, 75 games a year.
Right.
So I think he was excited to finally maybe get a break or have somebody that could go in and play well, and he didn't have to, steal a game every night. And we had a really good team that year. Like I said, that was the best team I've ever played on. Yeah. I know we didn't win the cup, but we got to game 7, and we're incredibly talented. So I think we both recognized that, and especially that first year, I wasn't there to steal his job. I was there just to survive and not lose when I played for this wagon of a team. And again, I think he saw the benefit of having a guy who could play 25 games a year. So again, he was a huge mentor and then friend to me. We still text to this day. We're in fantasy leagues together. He's a maniac when it comes to that kind of stuff. He's got like dozens of fantasy leagues on the go. So he's sucked me into a few of them. So we text, pretty regularly. I saw him in Florida last year in the finals. So we've maintained a great relationship, and I couldn't have done it without him. I don't think he taught me a lot. Just watching him practice and his attitude and mentality, I was like, Jesus, this is what it takes to be an elite goalie in the NHL. I thought I had an idea, and it's like I had no clue until I went to work with this guy. And so he sort of opened my eyes to that without directly doing it. He had stuff to worry about. He wasn't there trying to hold my hand, but he encouraged me. He gave me advice when I asked for it, and all in all, I didn't feel like his adversary. I felt like his teammate and partner in that sense. Like we were in this together. So if you play well, the team wins. That was our mantra. So I know it got dissected and broken down in the drama, but there was never any drama between us. I think, like I said, at some point you sometimes burn out of places like that when you're as big of a figure as he was. And I think sometimes it's just time, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's just time for change. And I think he recognized that and went on to Florida where he's from and was happy there. So, but yeah, we only spent 3 seasons together, full seasons. And it felt like a lifetime at times just with all the attention, all the stories. But again, I think, he helped me out quite a bit. So I was really thankful for that opportunity.
That's cool.
Did he ever bring up his Islanders tenure to you either during those years or maybe when you joined the organization? Because he had quite the beginning to his career with how he was handled here on the island back when things were a little different.
Obviously, coming from Florida before that, I think that was more of the focus. But I think he had a few Milbury stories that I can't remember at this point. But yeah, I remember that whole ordeal, him getting traded out of there and being a high draft pick. And he didn't talk about a whole lot because I think it was kind of pretty far in his past, but he came up with a few funny stories from his time there.
I can imagine.
Well, the other side is that I became friends with Mark Parrish through my agent. So Perry had some funny stories about being the one who got traded for Roberto, and he's like, man,
Yes.
how are you going to trade for that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Parrish, he was as good as anyone in front of the net during his salad days.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
He's beloved here too, because
Yes.
that team that the Islanders were in the wilderness, and he played a huge role in getting them out of there. But so yeah, I mean, it's a trade that gets harpooned by basically anyone. I was like, yeah, but it still landed us, Mark Parrish. So I was okay with that. So
yeah. Ole Jokinen.
Yes, yeah. God, that was something, man. Just to make room for Rick DiPietro, which of course, just another, like Luongo, like the two of them, just outsized personalities, and that was the experience of an Islander fan. I mean, for years and years was just you wake up in the morning, you didn't know if the team was going to be there, and you also didn't know who was going to be playing for the team because Mike Milbury just always had his finger on the trigger, and it didn't matter who you were, but you could just end up in Florida, despite being like the team's best player yesterday. So
I think
very different.
I think during the finals that year, Milbury was on NBC. Obviously, I didn't know him at all, but he was criticizing Henrik and Daniel, and I think I said something in the media like, "Yeah, it's coming from the guy who traded Roberto." The young kid, I was like, I get defensive. The guy probably should have said that, but whatever.
That's amazing.
Nah, you could go for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
please.
He's asking for it.
Yeah, seriously.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
My marathon isn't about time. It's about my 26 friends with intellectual disabilities I'm dedicating each mile to. I'm Joseph. I'm running my first Bank of America Chicago Marathon for Special Olympics Illinois to help give my friends a place to shine.
Join Bank of America in supporting Joseph's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportjoseph. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America.
References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Finish training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
So we've talked Luongo. We should talk a little bit about Marty Brodeur, again, who was here your first year when you came to the Devils and then left as a free agent, which, again, is still sort of mind-blowing. Like, when you're backing up Marty, or even when you got traded here, were you, like, conscious of the fact that I'm going to be, the successor to this guy who is an absolute legend here? And have you, again, stopped to reflect at some point that, holy crap, you're second in shutouts, third in wins, second in games played for the Devils. Your resume is amazing, but you had to follow the legend of all legends. Did that kind of play in your mind a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious. It was kind of the elephant in the room in a sense. It was pretty wild for me too, because I grew up, I had goalie posters all over my wall, and I had Roberto and Marty on my wall as a kid. So you sit here and be like, man, I got to play with both
Was it
these
an
guys.
Islanders Roberto Luongo poster? Or
It might have been actually, or a late Florida one. And honestly, my first training camp in Jersey, I walked into the change room where you get your stuff off and put your, under stuff on. And I looked up and, there was Marty Brodeurs change stall, Cory Schneider's change stall, Jaromir Jagr's change stall. I'm sitting between these two. I'm like, where am I right now? Like, what planet am I on? Like, this is wild. So it was pretty cool in that sense, just from what Marty had accomplished and what he'd done and how much I'd watch him. I never thought I'd get the chance to meet him, let alone play with him. But yeah, it was definitely a thing in a sense. Like he still could play and he wanted to play. And I think he knew that they brought me in to eventually replace him. And guys like that aren't wired that way. He wasn't ready to give up the net. He wasn't ready to lay down. And I appreciate that because that's what made him so good was his hyper competitiveness. So it wasn't anything between me and him. It was a scenario where like, hey, this is Marty. Like this guy's done everything for this franchise. He holds every goaltending record. This isn't just any guy. I think we had Pete DeBoer that year, and Pete sort of said, hey, look, we got to handle this the right way because I have to respect who he is and what he's done. And if he wins and plays well, like he's going to play. I know you're here and you want to play too. So I think he did a pretty good job. I think at least communicating with me. I don't know about Marty, what he was trying to accomplish. And I think we ended up splitting games pretty evenly that year, like 43-39. So yeah, I think it was weird for the fan base as well. I know they were very excited to have me, but I think there was definitely a subsection or a segment that were kind of like, yeah, but you're not Marty. And, I never tried to be. I got asked all the time, like, what's it like to follow in his footsteps or fill his shoes? And I said, look, Marty's Marty. No one's ever going to do what this guy has done. So I'm not trying to be that because I'll never get there. But like I'm me, and I'm hoping to create my own legacy and create my own narrative here and do the best I can. So sometimes it's hard to sit there and think about like where I stand with the Devils, just because I always wish I'd won more. Kind of my peak years in the beginning of my time there, we had an older team and then a team that just didn't have a ton of talent. So I just don't think we won as many games as I hoped. I put a lot of pressure on myself to win those games. We had a tough time scoring at times. So again, you go into games trying to be perfect and it wears on you after a while. And then some injuries started to hit and then my play kind of declined as we were turning things over and we had the Nikos and the Jacks and PKs in the lineup. And it just never seemed to line up for me at the right time. So I'm always a little frustrated that it didn't go better and that I couldn't win more and get into the playoffs more because I felt like I was that caliber of goalie. So it is bittersweet. Like I said, I love my time there. I'm very connected to the organization still, and I appreciate everything they did for me. But I also, like I said, sometimes wish more could have come of it for all the amount of effort and time. We were heavily involved in the community. We had a charity set up. We, like I said, tried to get the team together as much as we could to get to know each other. So we really invested a lot, my wife and I, and in a good way. We didn't want anything out of it. I just wish, like I said, sometimes you want to see more results for your efforts, and I just didn't always get them, whether it was because of me and myself and my play or just what was going on around me. So again, it's not bitterness. It's more just wishing that more had come of it on my end.
And during your time with the Devils, you obviously see a lot of the Islanders. And is there a player, from this kind of current core who, whether you were playing against him or when you joined the team, that you didn't maybe, or you don't think it's the credit that they're due from the greater hockey world, maybe is underrated, or people just don't, like we were talking about with Andy Green and the 10-foot passes that people kind of just don't pick up on. Is there anyone?
Two names come to mind. The first is a funnier one. Like I hated Cal Clutterbuck from Minnesota. Like used to run into him in the Northwest Division with the Canucks, and we'd always try to stir things up and just be a pain in the butt. So like, just even his name too, you're like, God, this guy's so annoying. And then you get to meet him and he's like awesome. He's a good friend of mine. We did broadcast last year and you get to know him. You're like, oh, this guy's hilarious. Like he's just a salty curmudgeon who just likes to laugh. So that was like an eye opener too, getting to play with Cal. But for me, the guy who stuck out was Brock Nelson. I mean, I think he was still kind of trying to figure himself out. I think he got properly rated here the last few years, but there was a time there when you didn't realize how good he was. They'd had JT and Barzy, so like he kind of got slotted in behind those guys, which is probably where he should have been on a good team. But just a great skater, high end skill, a nasty streak to him. Someone they didn't realize. And I remember when he signed that contract with them at some point, like 6x6. I was like, really? He was like, is he a $6 million player? And then I watched him more and then play with him, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's underpaid. Like he is just does everything, and you could see why he was in high demand at the deadline, and why the Islanders wanted to keep him, and why USA took him on the team. So I think he's finally gotten his due. But I remember back in 2015, 16, 17, I kind of was like, I think he's good, but is he that good? I couldn't quite tell. And the fact was, yes, he was that good. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, he was, and we're fans. We're going to be fans of his for a long time. But I've said this on our flagship show, Islanders Anxiety, a lot, and I'm the guy who wrote that. Oh my God, Brock Nelson is this team's second line center when John Tavares left, and then he ended up, rocketing up the Islanders goal scoring list, and he's one of my favorite players of this era. And he just at the time he wasn't, like you said, he was kind of finding himself, and once that Tavares left, well, he found himself all right. He found himself pretty well, and became a really great performer. We got to ask you a couple of BC questions. You're all over their goaltending chart as well. All-time leader in shutouts, again, 66 wins in your seasons there. You're from Massachusetts, as you mentioned before. We are obviously used to hear the rivalries between several Devils and Rangers, Islanders, Rangers, as existing in same households. Like, it's not unusual to have a dad who's one fan and a mom who's a fan of another team, or a brother who's, your brother is a Rangers fan, you're an Islanders fan, whatever, that kind of thing. Is the rivalry between BC and BU the same? Is it more sort of town versus town, or just school versus school? How does that work for those of us that aren't really kind of super versed in the college hockey universe?
Yeah, it's funny because I grew up like a hockey fan, but my dad's from Delaware, my mom's from California. They both went to school in Boston, and that's where they met, and they ended up living there. So like my dad was a Philadelphia fan, sort of. My mom was a Dodger fan, sort of. So like my dad went to Cornell when Ken Dryden was there, so I think that got him into the sport. And then just being from Boston, it's more the culture there. Like, I'm from the North Shore of Boston, like meaning north of, and a lot of the really good players come from the South Shore. So like there's a little bit of a North Shore South Shore rivalry in terms of just lifestyle culture. Like, they're two very different places. So I became a hockey fan just watching the Bruins. I went to some bean pots, when I was a kid, but I never grew up being like, I'm going to go to BC or I'm going to go to BU. Like, I didn't think I was going to play hockey, to be honest. So it never crossed my mind. But there were definitely kids in that area who was like, I'm going to be a Terrier one day, or like, I'm going to be an Eagle. Like, you definitely pick sides at a young age. And I got recruited by both, and neither here nor there, but Jack Parker didn't show up to my official visit at BU, so I crossed him off the list pretty quick. But I kind of had it down to BC and a couple Ivy League schools. I went to a pretty good boarding school, so like academics were important to me. But then I saw things like the Beanpot and the Hockey East, and I thought BC, just as a school, a hockey program, was the best chance for me to play professionally. So for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer. But it's funny because you grow up playing with all these kids. I'm sure it's like this on Long Island too. Like, you grow up, you go through the ranks, and the elite players start to separate themselves around high school, and you all kind of know each other from playing in these festivals and events. So, we had guys, Brian Boyle, one of my best friends, his two other best friends from St. Sebastian's went to BU, and his other best friend went to BC. So like, there were these 4 St. Sebastian's guys. It's a prep school in Boston, 2 and 2 on either side. And like, yeah, we hated them when they played, but like, they'd go get beers, during the week after a game or something, like, hey buddy, what's up? So, on the ice, you despise it because they won all the bean pots. We won all the Hockey East when I was there. So it kind of went both ways. The students really got into it. So it's unique. I know some people outside of New England kind of roll their eyes when they hear about the bean pot or, those things, but in Boston, it's a pretty big deal because it's a pro town. Boston's a pro sports town. The Bruins, the Patriots, the Celtics, like, people don't really care about BC football or, maybe UConn, but that's getting closer to this area in New York. So like, the bean pot is still a big deal in the city. You get to play in the Garden, and it gets banged out for it. So it's one of the few college events that I think people in that city really pay attention to. So that was always fun. But yeah, again, during those he's a great coach and guy, but I couldn't stand Jack Parker, and I'm sure people couldn't stand Jerry York. And, it just, we had an old salty goalie coach, Jimmy Logan, his accent, and, he had some scarring from playing back without a mask. And he hated BU with a passion because he played he used to come in and get us all fired up and, just talk trash about them. So again, it was a lot of fun, but we're only 3 miles away from each other. So I think that's a big part of it. And you run into each other a lot out and about in the city. So it's hard to explain, but it was a really fun ride to be a part of as a younger player.
No, it's very cool. It's like a little sort of pocket universe within the larger hockey universe. It's just kind of like, again, Islanders, Rangers, we got our whole like, hang-ups and guys that we hated and stuff like that. As we brought up BC, we should ask you while we have you what your thoughts were on a certain BC Eagle who we all kind of thought might have been drafted by the Islanders this year, from Long Island, by the name of James Higgins. What were your thoughts on that? Did you have any thoughts at all about like, oh wow, they're going to draft this guy? He's going to be pretty good, or maybe he's better off being a Boston Bruin for now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they would have loved to have drafted him. I'm sure they tried to, but I think, where things stood and what I was hearing leading up to the draft, like once they got that first pick, everyone I talked to said this Schaefer kid is a can't miss player. And as fun and cool as it would be for that connection, that, and I think James Higgins is going to be a hell of a player. But when you have an opportunity to take a franchise defenseman like that, I think it's hard to pass up. So you could have taken James Higgins number one, and he may end up being the best player in this draft. We don't know yet. But with the information they had, I think they'd be remiss if they didn't take Matthew Schaefer. So I think they did the right thing at the end of the day. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I could very well be proven wrong, but it would have been a really fun story to have. There are many Long Island kids, right, that are of that pedigree and have the opportunity to go that high in the draft. And who knows, maybe he'll love proving it wrong every time he plays the Islanders. But I think Dan should be very excited about Matthew Schaefer, what he's going to do for them.
We definitely are. Don't worry.
But if they'd have like the third pick, you might say, all right, let's take Higgins there. But unfortunately, they got number one. So
I know. Go figure. Very Islanders problem.
Tough break for the Islanders. I get last one for me. Cory, thanks again for doing this. And as I said, kind of the theme of the show is to talk about cult heroes or guys who kind of just came and went. And in looking back on before you joined the Islanders, and then now what you know about the island, the team, the fan base, and kind of the history, the weird, very strange, winding history of the team. But how has your perception changed about the Islanders and the fans in general from your time? I mean, I think you said before on the show, like they kind of were just there during like the first part of your career, especially when you're thousands of miles away in Vancouver. But how's your perception changed on the Islanders kind of country, Islander country as it used to be called and marketed, now that you've kind of just become part of it?
Yeah, again, I love the franchise. I love the fan base. It took me a minute to get used to being on Long Island. You live in Jersey, you don't really go there unless you're playing the Islanders. I had no connection there being from Boston. So getting to explore and live on Long Island was like a whole new world to me. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people on this island. I didn't realize it was like this jam-packed and there's so much to do and you can't go 3 miles without tripping over an elite golf course and some of the beaches and all that kind of stuff. It sort of seems like Boston, like its own little subculture and world that, you're in New York City, but you're also Long Island. It's a very different place in that sense, in a good way, that everyone's fiercely proud. And, I think the history of them from the dynasty in the 80s really bred a whole generation or two of fans. And that's awesome. I think it's great when your dad was a fan and his dad was a fan, because they did a ton of winning at some point. And I think that's what breeds like this kind of passion and loyalty. So I was thrilled when they got UBS. I know Coliseum was an awesome place, but it was time. It was time to make the adjustment. Having been a visitor in the Coliseum, trust me, it was time. But that last game there, the game 6 against the Lightning in overtime, was chaos. So that was a fun way to send that building out.
Would you say that the backup goalie seat at the Nassau Coliseum in the stands, was that the worst seat in the house or the best seat in the house?
Worst, in the corner. It's hard to see in the corner, to be honest. And then you're just with the fans, which can be fun, but other times you're just like, hey man, I'm trying to focus or do my job. I can't chit chat right now. Or if, like you said, if Lou sees me, he's going to kill me. So yeah, like I said, it was fun to get to know, and honestly, just that group of guys. I know a lot's been made about how close they are, and sometimes at some point fans don't want to hear it anymore. Like, hey, I know they're close, but like they got to win more. But
we call them all the young.
We're kind of rebuilding. A lot of young kids, guys like myself, Andy, Kyle, Trav. We were kind of the grown-ups in the room, and I mean that in a good way. Like you gotta have those guys and teach the young kids. But then all of a sudden you go to the island. It's a group of guys that have been together forever and they know what to do. The practices were like night and day. It was like, oh, these guys execute. They make tape-to-tape passes. They know the drills. There's no futzing around. It's like, this is a pro practice, So it's kind of nice to get dropped back into that environment. And that's no disrespect to the Devs, but they were just in a transitional period of going young. And that's what comes with young players is mistakes and focus and that kind of stuff. So getting to know that whole group and seeing how tight they were and how well they played together and got along, it kind of reminded me of my early days in Vancouver, where you had a really tight knit group of players who cared and respected each other and knew what the goal was. So I had a lot of fun just kind of joining that group and being a part of that run in the COVID year, even though I didn't play at all, but just being in it, it just felt, like I said, they made you feel very welcome and a part of the team, even if you weren't necessarily contributing all the time.
Yeah, we on our podcast and Islanders Anxiety, we've referred to this group as the Uncles for quite some time, because Casey Cizikas' kids grew up with Brock Nelson's kids, who grew up with Cal Clutterbuck's kids, who grew up with Josh Bailey's kids, and so I guess I will ask you: have you ever been around a team with this many kids running around? Because we used to joke, like, there's no way that any team in the NHL has more kids than this group of Islanders, which probably
not these days, because everyone's in their early to mid 20s now. The only comparable is in Vancouver, because I was at 24. Me and Alex Edler were the two youngest players in the team, because that's back when I say back when it was only 2010, but your team was made up of guys from 25 to 35. Like, that was the middle class, and it's slowly gotten younger and younger. So I do remember that in Van, like after the game, Sedin's kids would come running in, and Roberto's kids would come running in, and BX's kids would come running in. They start playing mini hockey in the locker room after a win, and we won a lot, so it was fun too. But the family room was always buzzing and full, and it was a great experience. So yeah, it reminded me a lot of that. Just everyone's kids just being together, and it made it feel more familial. Just like a family environment where I think you get to know a player better when you know their wife or girlfriend, or you know their kids, and it just creates another level of attachment and saying, hey, I'm going to go fight for this guy. Because we know each other at that level. So it reminded me a lot of that. And I think, again, I think that's why perhaps at times they maybe outplayed their talent level or went further than people expected, because of things like that you can't really teach or quantify with analytics and advanced stats and all that stuff.
Yeah. This summer, especially, every Islander seemed to either do one of two things: either have a kid or get a hole in one. There's only one of two things. Everybody did one of those two things. Cory, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you hanging on with us. We had a few technical issues, so we've gone a little long.
It's a little rusty to start the season, so
that's all right.
I can iron those out.
Yeah, we're knocking off the rust, but that gets right to my final question, which is, you're obviously a complete natural at this broadcasting thing. I mean, seeing you on the MSG broadcast felt just as natural to me as an Islanders fan as it was seeing you in goal for them. It just felt like you had kind of always been here, but in a good way. And was this something you wanted to do during your playing time? Were you like, whenever I decide to hang it up, maybe I'll go into broadcasting, or did you just kind of fall into it accidentally?
Yeah, it's funny because, during your career, it's kind of like, oh, you should, people tell you, like, make connections, lay some pipe, you just sort of plan what's next. And it's hard to do that when you're playing, because you're so hyper focused on what you're doing, and it just doesn't seem possible, right? You're like, I got plenty of time left. Sure. But there were, along the way, I did some work with NBC Sports back when they had broadcasting. They invited me in, so that was a really cool experience. NHL Network had me in a few times just to do some stuff with them, because they were in New Jersey and I was right there. So they definitely stayed in touch. Like the NHL Networks guy would reach out after, I think, my first full year in Bridgeport, said, hey, you just keeping tabs, you think about retiring? I said, I think I'm going to play another year. He said, all right, well, give us a call as soon as you decide you're done. So, definitely there were some feelers out there. It's the tricky thing about when you play sports, is that your career is over in your mid 30s, and you kind of have to decide what your next chapter is going to be. And for some guys, the easy thing and natural thing, I think, is to stay in the game. It's what you know. You're an expert at it. You haven't really built a resume beyond that. So, I had a good buddy from BC who had a decent pro career, mostly minors in Europe. And at 30, he tried to enter the work world. He's like, what do I put on my resume? 8 goals, 7 assists in 32 games. Like, what financial firm is going to care about that? So it's a weird place to be. So I looked at other things. I was a finance major, try to make some connections with those, because again, it's also a weird time, because people will pick up the phone because of what you do. It doesn't matter who you are or what you know. Hey, this guy plays for the New Jersey Devils. Do you want to talk to him? Sure. And when you retire, that kind of goes away. You're not as interesting or exciting when you're an ex-player. So, you kind of have to take advantage or use those connections while you can. But it's a bit daunting. Like, am I going to leave the game and go do something completely new where, I'm going to have to learn and be trained, or, start a 9 to 5 when, my kids are growing up? And, it sounds, like good problems to have, which it is. But it's a whole, you're basically starting at the base level of whatever you do as a late 30-year-old, which is kind of weird. in another sense. So it seemed natural to do, just to, I got some calls. Like I said, MSG reached out right away, and NHL Network reached out right away, and it worked with where we lived. And at that time, I wanted to be busy, but not super busy, because when you play, you miss a lot of time with your family. You're gone a lot.
Yeah.
And even when you're home, you're not fully there because you're focused on the game and you're getting ready to go play. So I was blessed and fortunate enough in my career to do well enough financially that I didn't have to go do something right away that I didn't want to do. So yeah, it's just kind of a natural progression of working my way into this, and I do seem to enjoy it. It keeps me involved. I don't know if I'd be as involved with the game if I didn't do this, in terms of keeping track of players and teams and what's going on in the league. And I do love the game, but life pulls you in different directions when you're not a full-time player. So I feel fortunate that it has kept me involved and kept some of these relationships going. And we'll see where it goes. It could end next year, it could end this year, who knows? But for now, I'm really enjoying doing it. And thank you. I appreciate the kind words about my performance thus far. But I've been being told you got a face for radio. We'll kind of see where it goes.
I was actually going to ask if a prerequisite for working for MSG Network is having great hair. Because between you, Hickey, Shannon, really the only guy who doesn't is Butch, but he's Butch, right? He gets his own thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And even Clutter's got a good salad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We would joke about that. Like, Hicks's hair is on point. And like I said, I'm very fortunate that I got some good genes and I still have some really thick hair. So yeah, that was part of the screening test. I don't know if people know that, but they said, "What's your hair like?" And I said, "Well,
I knew it."
Yep. It's a big undercover operation, but it presents well on TV. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. That's the first scoop we've ever broken here at Weird Islanders, the podcast. There you go. And now, last year, you debuted a new podcast with Brian Boyle, one-time All-Stars. It's a Devils podcast. It's great. You guys have a great chemistry together. Really quickly, how did that come about, and what are the plans for that this season?
Yeah, I'm sure fans are familiar with Brian, obviously, with the Rangers, and he's done a great job in his post-hockey career. Just being an analyst and around the game. But he and I, we went to college together for 3 years, so we were good buddies from that. And then when we played together in Jersey, he got the leukemia diagnosis. His son went through some stuff, so we really got even closer at that stretch. And I think we were just chopping it up one night late. I think he might have been up to Lake House, and we'd had a few bourbons or something, and we were like, what, we should just do this when we're done playing. Just talk about stuff in life and being a dad and, all the stuff that bothers us and all the things we like. And we're like, yeah, let's do that. So sure enough, we kind of both retired at the same time and said, hey, do you want to do that thing we talked about that night? And he said, hell yeah. So it's been fun. It's been pretty small. It's not obviously at the level you guys are at, but we kind of, no, seriously, it's not easy. So everyone's got a podcast, right? So
yes,
we tried to find something that was a little different, that wasn't quite, the same as everything else. So, we started with our own guy, and now the Devils kind of picked us up because we're both with that franchise, obviously. So we're hoping to get it back on track this season. We kind of had a little bit of a rough entry there, just getting all the logistics and technical stuff lined up to make it work. But we're hoping to hit the ground running this fall and keep it going. So I appreciate you guys mentioning that. If any Islanders fans want to hear some Devils talk, which I know they do, hopefully we'll be back up and running soon.
Yeah, I hope so. I really enjoyed it, so I hope that happens. And that's really, really cool. We can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been fantastic. We've kept you long enough, and I think your dog may need to be walked. I'm not sure.
My son was in here at times being like, "When are you going to be done?"
Become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content, or just join for free to get announcements and our weekly release calendar. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Knuckles by Bjorn Falk. Listen to more of Bjorn's music at Bandcamp and on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety Podcast, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, do you have any final words for Cory before we let him go and thank him again for his time and his memories tonight?
No, I'm really happy that instead of you and I and our guest wondering about what a Weird Islander, Cory, and as we said, it is an honor to be a Weird Islander. It is a term of endearment, except for a very select few. But so we're very happy to do it. But instead of us ruminating and trying to get inside the head of of a Weird Islander and think about what they think about their Islanders legacy, or if they even think about their Islanders legacy. It's nice to actually have an answer to it from the Weird Islander himself. So yeah, once again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. The stories were great. Yeah, I mean, come back anytime if you ever want to, do a Weird Islanders episode about another Weird Islander. I know you cross paths with a few in Vancouver and New Jersey. We're dying to do a Rob Davison episode.
Yes,
for sure.
In Jersey, yep.
Yeah, so
Michael Grabner, I was with in Vancouver and then New Jersey. So I got a whole list.
Yeah, I mean, we'll send you the list, and you can come on and we can talk about those players, and you can join the conversation where you try to figure out what Rob Davison thinks his Islanders legacy is all about.
Just wait, Brian and I could do an entire episode on Steve Giunta alone. So
oh my god,
no problem.
See, you're getting it. You're right here. You're one of us now. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing. Good luck this season with MSG. Again, we hope the podcast gets back together. And it's been great having you part of the Islanders family.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Thanks a lot. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another great guest and another Weird Islander. Until then, keep the Islanders weird, and we will talk to you all throughout the season. So strap in. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.